President Trump says that 2 survivors of a recent submarine strike will be sent back to their home countries of Ecuador and Colombia for, quote, detention and also prosecution.
That submarine strike was just the most recent of at least 6 vessels from South America that have been destroyed since early September for alleged narco-trafficking. Again, it left 2 survivors, both of whom were picked up by the US military. The president says 2 more were killed on board. It comes amid the administration's crackdown on drug trafficking in South and Central America. Top of mind in that effort is Venezuelan strongman Nicolas Maduro, who was indicted in the US back in 2020 for leading a drug cartel. So far, Trump has confirmed that he authorized the CIA to expand covert operations inside Venezuela, and he has raised the possibility of direct action against Maduro. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has also increased the reward to $50 million for information leading to Maduro's arrest or conviction.
In an effort to ease the mounting pressure from the Trump administration, Venezuelan government officials have reportedly floated a plan for Maduro to leave office. And the New York Times reports that Maduro has offered the USA a dominant stake in Venezuela's oil and mineral wealth.
He has offered everything. He's offered everything. You're right. You know why? Because he doesn't want to around with the United States.
Meanwhile, President Trump ripped Colombian President Gustavo Petro over the weekend, saying he is a, quote, illegal drug leader, strongly encouraging the massive production of drugs in big and small fields all over. That after Petro accused the U.S. of murder after a September strike against what Trump said were confirmed narco-terrorists.
Quite a lot here. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, so it was a submarine. That was interesting. I'm not expert enough in what the usual means of delivery for drug ships is, but I certainly wasn't imagining them to be submarines. And I could be wrong, but surviving a strike on a submarine seems kind of extraordinary.
Yeah.
It seems extraordinarily more difficult than surviving a strike on a
boat,
on an open ship.
Yeah.
They sink pretty fast.
Yeah.
But they survived, these people, and have been returned to their home country. Now, not nicely with a pat on the back. They're going to be prosecuted there. I think some people found it an odd kind of, they were claiming these are narco-terrorists, and we blew up their ship, and we killed 2 of them, and then the other 2 we just sent them. But I guess what authority do we have to... They could very well be criminals, and the right thing to do is to give them back to their home countries for prosecution. So I actually didn't find that so suspect that we didn't kidnap them into our own prisons.
I think the thing that is suspect is the incongruity or the lack of consistency, right? Sure. Because on the one hand, it's like, well, we don't actually have the authority to try these people, but apparently we have the authority to kill them. I mean, that doesn't seem to make sense. And I think that goes to what people have such problems with in this policy, including your friend, Senator Rand Paul, who, to his credit, has been very much to the fore on this.
Well, let's know their names. I would like to know the names of these people we keep wiping out, and then we can have some reporting on establishing that they are, in fact, narcotics traffickers.
Right.
I would presume that is true of the vast majority of them, but as Rand Paul said, when we've raided these ships in the past, you find out that 1 in 4 or 1 in 5, I can't remember exactly what it was not involved in trafficking of drugs.
Right.
So, so we're blowing them up.
Right, exactly. And I mean, the point is, I don't assume one way or another whether the U.S. administration is right or not in the activities that it's ascribing to these people. I would note that in relation to Petro, the Colombian president, he made that accusation that the US had murdered one of his citizens because he says that it was a boat where the engines had failed and it had an active distress signal, was emitting a distress signal when the US blew it up. He says killing a fisherman. Now, is he telling the truth or not? Nobody knows, because nobody knows anything really about this other than these rather sort of cartoonish videos that the administration keeps releasing, a sort of video game type blowing up off a boat, and then Pete Hegseth or Trump comes out and says, oh, these were terrible people, so we've blown them up, there we go. That isn't how the United States should be acting. It isn't how any country should be acting. We and no other country should have the right to go around the world just blowing people out of the water and saying, well, trust us, they were up to bad things.
Right. I mean, we can blow them up if we get proper authorization to do so. If we take a vote, Congress votes to declare war on drugs, or authorizes in some way, in the same way the war on terror had a justification initially, and then was going on forward in time for every terrorist group ever. It made no sense. As far as Maduro is concerned, look, I think it would be a good thing if his regime fell, and this is what the woman who was just awarded the Nobel Peace Prize is working toward democratically, through democratic means. That's how it should take place, through or through a mass, nonviolent civil demonstration, and he is ousted. These kinds of things are always a little bit messy, but if it, by and large, peaceful would be ideal. And I want the U.S. to be uninvolved in that. I don't think we should topple the regime. I don't think we should participate in it. I think if it is toppled, that would be a perfectly welcome outcome for the people of Venezuela, because he's a reprehensible dictator. But we should not be involved in that, because we don't know how it's going to turn out. We don't know who's going to come in next. They could be a lot better. They could be just as bad, or they could be worse. That's been our awareness in the past.
Yeah.
And again, we're not authorized to conduct a war against Venezuela. So I'm happy to provide rhetorical support to freedom enthusiasts in the country of Venezuela, to people like the Nobel Prize winner, who has thanked Trump and thanked the U.S. for being beacons of pro-democratic sentiment in the hemisphere, and we should leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, in relation to Maduro, I'm not going to minimize his awfulness just because he is like ostensibly a left-wing or far left-wing character.
Old school left-wing character who's just living it up in luxury and
living it up,
like
stealing elections
Yeah.
and pilfering the nation's wealth and all of that. Terrible person. I agree with you. I also think, when the United States does get involved, it inevitably discredits the faction that the US is aligning itself with. In relation to the point about the authorization from Congress, I think you would agree that there's less justification even for that authorization against drug cartels than there would be against, Al-Qaeda or ISIS or something like that.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, the fentanyl crisis in America is significant. It is causing great harm. Probably one could argue more harm than ISIS caused the United States itself. ISIS committed horrifying crimes, and it was correct for us to authorize actions to take them out, as did virtually everyone in the entire world united in contempt for this organization. I don't know that attacking these ships is the best way to deal with the fentanyl problem, as our efforts to fight the drug war with more means of violence has not made any dent whatsoever in almost 40 years.
Well, and it's also just, in my view, morally wrong for the US to be wandering around just killing people. Anyway, former New York Congressman George Santos is now out of prison thanks to President Trump. We'll be right back with more on that after this.